In classical singing, there is this concept of singing in the mask, which is very common, very pervasive in vocal pedagogy. And it essentially describes that when we are singing, that ideally, kinesthetically, we are feeling some sensations just behind our nose in our face, right? A sort of buzzing sensation while we're singing. And that conveys that we're making a good balanced sound, that it's not too dark, that it's carrying out into the hall. And I find that often when this concept is introduced and is taught, it's sort of a misnomer in how it really is a helpful tool. That actually singing in the mask is a result of good, efficient singing rather than an action that leads to good singing. So what do I mean? Let me use an analogy to sort of describe what I mean. So let's say I'm a gymnast. I'm doing this, acrobatic routine, right? Super complicated, lots of jumps, backflips, yada, yada, yada. And I can't stick the landing. Whatever happens, I just can't stick the landing. And my coach keeps saying, you gotta stick the landing. You gotta stick the landing, right? It's so important. And so in doing the routine over and over again, I am so fixated on the final product, on that last thing, on sticking the landing, that everything before then, I just completely ignore. I might miss some jumps. I might just, totally bomb, other actions within that routine. But because I'm just so fixated on sticking the landing, right? And I find that this is often how singing in the mask is also conveyed, right? We're just taught, just sing into the mask. Keep it in the mask, right? But singing in the mask is the result of other steps prior to that. That if we do those steps, then we get that sensation of singing in the mask rather than singing to the mask. Why aren't you singing into the mask, right? So if a teacher has ever said to you, sing into the mask, right? What's your first inclination? I know I've been taught this, and what my first thought is to, okay, sing into the mask. Why, right? I'm getting a ring right here, right behind my nose, right? What's the problem? Well, for me, that seems like, it's a more brass-like sound. It takes on a brighter quality. And it isn't as flexible to make that sort of sound, right? If you're only approaching from just here, pointing it out right here to your nose, right? Then you have almost zero backspace, right? If you want to, it just feels like I have less movement, I have less flexibility in doing that, right? And if I try and sing in that configuration in the higher part of my range, then I'm just gonna open myself up to having more laryngeal tension, right? If I'm not giving the space that is needed to facilitate the laryngeal tilt, right, those higher pitches, then instead I'm gonna have to muscle my way through those higher pitches, right? So in the long run, it is not as ideal of a, vocal configuration, right? So then what does it mean to sing into the mask, right? It just means you have to find the steps that then lead you to having that sensation, right? So, for example, I can go, right, completely ignoring backspace, versus, now, to your ears, you might be hearing, well, that's the darker sound, right? But interestingly, I'm also still feeling that kinesthetic sensation in the mask, right? That singing sensation in the mask. I'm still feeling a buzz despite, having a more darker quality, right? And that is exactly what, when we're looking for this balance of lightness and darkness, or of brightness and darkness rather, that's what we're looking for, this chiaro scuro. I have that darker quality from the lift back here, as well as the buzzing sensation in the front, right? And it's not dominant of one or the other. Notice I did not go, oh, it wasn't too dark. It was a balanced sound. You can go, oh, you go, ah, you go, ah, right? So when we say sing in the mask, when your teacher says sing into the mask, ask what that means. How do I sing into the mask? Because it's often presented as being an action. You need to sing into the mask, right? Sing into the mask. But really, singing into the mask is a byproduct of good, efficient singing, right? And then the question becomes, what are the steps I need to then get to the sensation of mask singing, right? What are the steps I need to do in my singing that then result in me feeling kinesthetically a buzz just behind my nose?